Well, I'm pleased to have in studio someone that I call a friend, but that's not why he's here. Although we could bring all my friends in here and cover it in about 3 segments. But he's here because he is now the new president of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. So welcome to Talk of the Town, Carteret County's sheriff, Mr. Asa Buck. Sheriff Buck, welcome to Talk of the Town.
Doug, I'm delighted to be here with you today. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's been a little whirlwind the last few days for you, I know, but let's talk a little bit because it's been years now, and we were talking about it a few weeks ago that we couldn't believe how time has passed by. You've been sheriff now in Carteret County for how many years?
Going on 8. I'm in my 8th year.
Going on 8, and it does not seem that long ago. And you remember you started campaigning so early. We're probably talking 10 years ago when you and I first got together and you told me you wanted to run for sheriff, and I asked you why. But you were 29 years old at the time. Carteret County was loaded with people. The longtime Sheriff Ralph Thomas had announced he wasn't running, and people were just lining up left and right to run, and many with fairly impressive and long law enforcement resumes. You were a 29-year-old road deputy, and you said, this is always what I wanted to do, and I'm going to do it. And I got behind you. I was impressed with your work ethic and just the vision you had for Carteret County. And it was an easy sell, and the folks supported you. And I always mention this, both in the primary and in the general election, you defeated opponents that had more years of law enforcement experience than you had on the face of the earth. So,
That's
right. We want to talk about the Sheriff's Association, but it really is a story. It made statewide news. You were the youngest sheriff in the state. I mean, what was that whole process like? And because the thing that people don't realize, if you lost your job. And it wasn't a sheriff being mean, but I mean, that's just common sense. You can't have somebody who ran an election against you working for you. So
Right.
You really stuck your neck out to do that. Can you talk a little bit about that process before we get in the association?
Absolutely, and it was an amazing process. I think you hear everybody say that runs for office, just they enjoy the process, they enjoy the people that they meet and everything. And as you know, in my race, and I really worked hard to get out there, and I started campaigning May of 2005 for the general election in November of 2006. And for an 18-month period, I knocked on over 5,000 doors in a door-to-door campaign, going out meeting the people of the county. I worked in the eastern part of the county as a deputy sheriff and knew a lot of people down there, and felt like I had built a pretty good reputation. But I wasn't really all that well known in the western part of the county, so I had to get out there and go meet the people.
And for people who don't understand the Carteret County geography, I mean, the county's 100 miles long.
It's a long county from Cedar Island to Cedar Point.
But that's not a lie. It's 100 from Cedar Island to Cedar Point, which isn't the exact thing, but I mean, it's an easy way to put it. It's 100 miles.
Yep.
And so you had a lot of ground to cover.
A lot of ground to cover, and so we put a lot of time and effort into that campaign, and everything worked out pretty good.
And it must have, because this time you're running unopposed.
And
so that's always kind of the ultimate compliment that you're doing a good job. That nobody thinks they've got a good enough shot to even challenge you. And especially sheriff's a weird thing. You'd think. Sheriff would be something that not a lot of people would want to run for. People come out of the woodwork to run for sheriff. If they've had any kind of law enforcement experience, they think they can be sheriff.
Right.
And we saw that in previous primaries where we have 6, 7 people in a primary and things of that nature. But to be unopposed, either primary or general election, that's quite a compliment on the work you're doing.
Well, I can tell you one thing. Nobody knows what it's like to be sheriff until they actually sit in the seat and then get going. It's like I say, a lot of people think they might want that job, but it's kind of like the dog chasing the car. What does the dog do once he catches the car?
Yeah.
And so when you get it, you've really got your hands full. And law enforcement in general is more than just a profession; it's a lifestyle. But to be the elected sheriff of the people is even more so. I mean, when you're a sheriff, that is your life.
Right. I heard you on Tom and Sadie. I didn't even know this, because it's not something we talk about a lot, but you're still the youngest sheriff in the state, even at, what are you, 37, 38?
Well, tomorrow I'll be 39.
Well, 39 tomorrow. Well,
yes, sir.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
But that's still the youngest sheriff in the state, but you took the oath of office when you were 31.
That's
correct?
right.
Yeah.
Yep. And if depending on how the elections turn out this year, I may still continue to be the youngest sheriff in the state. That'd be pretty unique. I've had it for 2 terms now, and may even have it again for 3 terms. But we'll see how that works out.
Well, also unique as the statewide organization that represents all 100 sheriffs, the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. You are the newly elected president of that. So the youngest
right.
sheriff in the state's the president of the association. So congratulations on that.
Thank
Tell
you.
the folks a little bit about the North Carolina Sheriff's Association, their mission. I think most people, if they know anything about it, they know those little stickers that go on the back window that has that very recognizable sheriff's badge on it, the star. And, just know that a lot of folks, they say, well, that's supporting the local sheriff. But talk about some of the mission of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association.
Well, our association is our professional organization that represents all 100 sheriffs, and our mission to serve the public in North Carolina. We have a number of different programs. First and foremost, of course, for our sheriffs is training. Law enforcement nowadays is very dynamic, probably now more than ever. Every time the legislature comes in session, there's always some tweaks to some laws, and some years more than others. A lot of this training that we do, we actually do through grants. We work with the Governor's Crime Commission, we work with the Governor's Highway Safety Program, and we sponsor, they provide funding to us to provide training on a statewide basis, and not just to sheriffs, but to sheriff's office personnel, other law enforcement agencies. Each year, working with the Governor's Highway Safety Program, we sponsor training where we have 5 training locations all across the state to provide a legal update after the legislature ends their session. A lot of these laws actually take effect usually around October or January, that type of thing. So we try to schedule those trainings around the same time. And
well, that's important. I mean, people don't realize that. They hear all the time. And, of course, it doesn't make the newspaper every law that's passed. There's so many things that are
Right.
And right now there's something going on that's for those of us who really like transparency in government, it's called the Technical Corrections Bill, that they can just throw anything in the world in there and it never sees the light of day as far as news and media coverage. But your association goes through and they keep track of any kind of laws that have changed, and then you have these updates for.
That's right.
And as you said, I think it's great. It's not just sheriff's personnel; it's law enforcement in general can attend it, because you got to know if the law changes, you're out there, enforcing a law that's no longer in place, or there's a law that is now in place and you're not enforcing it.
Yep.
How are you going to find out about it? So that's an important role. I can see that as something that you're going to be doing very shortly. It's an important role.
Absolutely.
To talk a little bit about the Sheriff's Association and what they do as their relationship with the legislature, because I know that's a part of it. I'm familiar with the Sheriff's Association because the building's right around the corner from,
Right.
when I'm up there working some, I'll walk right by the office. It's close to the legislature, and there's a reason for that. I mean, talk about the work that they do communicating with legislature.
Well, and that's one of our main missions is to pay attention to what's going on in Washington D.C. and of course here in Raleigh with the General Assembly, and we consider the representatives and the senators our partners in working together to create good law. Obviously, folks in the legislature, not all of them are law enforcement officers. We have a couple up there who are former law enforcement. They understand the law enforcement field. But we're there to help them and support them in fashioning law. We want to work together to make sure that we enact good law and that we don't put something in place that somebody didn't see and then have a negative impact down the road.
Right.
And so we work with them very closely so that they know where we're coming from, and especially the sheriff. I mean, the sheriff is the only elected law enforcement representative in North Carolina. And we do more than just law enforcement. We have to maintain the county jail. We execute civil process. We're in charge of courtroom security. Many sheriffs still are in charge of their county communication systems. And then on the criminal side, there's just law enforcement nowadays is very dynamic. I believe I mentioned on the radio yesterday when I first started in law enforcement, I hardly ever heard of metal theft. But nowadays, that is a big thing. Matter of fact, I have a detective who is assigned to almost everything he does is dealing with metal thefts.
Yep.
And nowadays,
And for people that are unfamiliar, it's people that are going out and they're stealing metal to
Right.
turn it in to these scrap metal places
That's
to
right.
make money on it. And in some places, if you go to the bigger cities, but I know occasionally, in the middle of the night, I can't sleep. I'll watch those real estate auctions from Florida, to see how cheap you could actually buy a house. And you'll see these cages that they put around
That's right.
the air conditioning units because people go in there and they steal the copper out of it and all this kind of stuff. I mean, in some states, this has become so widespread, you literally have to lock up.
Yep.
They'll steal it right off your house. So, I mean, as you said, I know in Carteret County that's become a problem. The other thing is, too, bailiffs is another thing that the Sheriff's
That's right.
Association in the courtroom, so the sheriffs deal with in the courtroom. So a lot of people in North Carolina, they think sheriff, they think Andy Griffith. We're a long way from that. It's but the one thing that I did point out this past week, you had your annual conference, and that is where you were sworn in. Both Attorney General Roy Cooper, who is, I don't think we're stretching anything to say he's the leading candidate for the Democrat nomination for governor, and current governor, Republican Pat McCrory, both attended that.
That's right.
Now, I know they both wanted to see you get sworn in and everything, but the real reason they were there, let's just be honest, is there's no more influential person in a county than the sheriff. When you look at all the lives you touch, all the people
Absolutely.
that you come in contact with. And how many sheriffs out of the 100 were at your conference this year?
72 sheriffs were in attendance, but 2 other offices were represented by personnel from their office, 74.
So you're at, almost 3/4 of the sheriffs in the state were there.
Yep.
And so that's important for an elected official who's running statewide to get in front of you and get to see you. So it was quite a compliment to your association that both of them showed up.
Right.
It's I can't think of another event that both of them have been to.
We're always very pleased and very honored to have our elected officials there with us.
We're talking with Carteret County Sheriff Asa Buck, who is, as we mentioned, the new president of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. We got just a couple minutes left. If you would, talk about the honorary membership program, because once again, as I said, most of us, we know about the Sheriff's Association. It's that sticker. That sticker is somebody saying, I'm a member of the honorary member. Can you talk about that and how people can get involved?
Well, if anyone is interested, well, the honorary membership program is a way for the average citizen to help not just their local sheriff, but all 100 sheriffs, and as I mentioned, law enforcement in general. If anyone is interested in becoming an honorary member, they can go to our website, ncsheriff.org, or they could call 919-SHERIFF. The number for that is 919-743-7433. And, as I mentioned, this is a way for the citizens to help us.
And it's $25 a year, and it's just a way to support the work of the Sheriff's Association,
right.
which includes, we haven't even mentioned, we've only got a minute left, but you have a scholarship program that
That's
I
right.
think is one of the really great things that you do.
We offer 12 scholarships per semester, each one for $1,000. And those are for deserving students who are looking to go to one of the UNC school systems, and who are looking to have a career in law enforcement. So that's another way that the Sheriff's Association helps not only law enforcement, but also we're able to give back to the community and help some deserving college students as well.
And finally, we didn't even touch on, we're up against the break, obviously, but we didn't even touch on some of the other training. There's training that goes that helps sheriffs, and in particular in their jails, such a dangerous area for potential lawsuits that count
liability.
The liability and what it costs counties every year. There's things of that nature. And then just one of the most important things is, hey, when you're elected, when you were 31 years old, you knew a lot about law enforcement, but there was a lot of the ins and outs of being a sheriff you didn't know. There's basically a sheriff school for all new sheriffs. Right. So those are just some of the things. Sheriff Buck, wish we had more time, but we appreciate you spending some time with us this morning, and best of luck in your term as president of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. You've been listening to Talk of the Town on WTIB 103.7 FM. We'll be back here same time, same place tomorrow morning.